Welcome back to Basic Binges, everyone. It is Friday, and you know what that means. That means we are here to talk about She-Hulk. Episode 7, recap it for you guys, break it down for you guys, talk all the fun stuff, the Easter eggs, all the good stuff. I'm your host, Mike Manalo, as always. Here with two amazing guests. First off, I would like to apologize for the slight tardiness today. Today's show is brought to you by LA Traffic. When you're trying to go somewhere and get there on time so you can start a podcast just exactly at 8, LA Traffic is just there to screw you over. Yeah. So thank you guys for your patience, and hopefully the show will be worth it. It won't be. No, I'm kidding. It'll be totally fun.
Come on.
No,
it's all right. That's like my favorite tweet I've probably ever seen, and I think about it once a week, was it said, "How can I make traffic in Hollywood even more fucked up? The man who decided where to put the Hollywood Bowl, probably."
No truer words have ever been spoken, honestly, on the internet.
I think about that like once a week.
You guys don't reveal that, LA is not a real place and that traffic is just a state of mind, man. You got to just kind of vibe into the traffic, It's you got to lay back and let the traffic happen to you.
I like the way you
think.
Yeah,
I do let the traffic happen to me, and unfortunately, the traffic wasn't happening to my boss.
Yeah, or me tonight, unfortunately. But I love your mindset, Carolyn. I think I should adopt that going forward. And
because traffic, Mike, is a lesson.
Yeah,
that you need to learn.
Oh, yeah, it's a lesson that too many people have Teslas.
That is actually incredibly accurate. Indeed. By the way, I'm a terrible host. I need to get into intros. Beth, please introduce yourself to everyone who's watching.
Hi, my name is Beth, or B, and I really like comics, and I watch things on TV. I don't know, guys, I'm nobody, but this is cool, and I'm here. Thanks for having me.
You are not nobody. Look at that green lighting, everyone. That is not the lighting from someone who's a nobody. That is lighting from someone who's ready to talk about She-Hulk.
This is the lighting of someone who the only thing I asked for in my divorce was I said, I'm taking half of you lights.
You know what? I
They're
think you
expensive, dude.
Yeah, you won that. That's a win right there. That's worth taking to court. But it's great to have you on the show with us, Beth. And of course, joining us again, the wonderful Carolyn Poddig. How are you, Carolyn?
I'm doing okay. Just kind of sitting here, kind of enjoying the briefly dipping temperatures in Southern California. It was almost a normal temperature, but I forgot we only have 2 seasons here, hot and extremely hot.
Yeah.
So it rose back up. But other than that, just really excited. Rewatched the episode this afternoon. Actually caught up on Andor. Very excited about that. Disney we're just knocking it out of the park. As I'm just very proud, of ourselves.
You should be. And I see a little thing peeking off your t-shirt there. Can you show us what's on that? What you're rocking right now?
Oh, my Daredevil. I mean, this little guy right here.
Well, both of them, I guess. I was really alluding to Matt down there, but yeah.
No, this is my watch buddy. This is Groot, who is here to kind of take in the vibes,
Yeah.
Find the lessons that he needs to learn, because that was the big thing is, every problem that is presented is a lesson.
That is very, very true. And
Yoshi.
And
he's
I
can contribute. I actually do.
But yes,
I love it. And Carolyn, totally on brand. Love that you said that, because we heard those exact words earlier, in this episode as well. So that's a sign that we need to get into it. Shout out of course to one of our usual guests on the show, Michael Lee, who's on the chat right now, saying that the lighting is on point for you, Beth. I absolutely agree. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
And for the rest of you guys watching at home, just remember you can redeem your Nom Talk books, because we are now officially certified to do this. You could redeem your Nom Talk bucks for actions like having us talk in third person or hydrating, if you guys want us to take a sip of water or something. So, if you want to actively participate in the chat and make us do crazy fun stuff, by all means, our show is your show. But let's get into it. Let's get into the show. Episode 7, first initial thoughts. I mean, for me personally, I really enjoyed this one because I think this is the first episode in a while where we start to dive really heavily into Jen as a character, as her, her insecurities a lot more. We get a lot further in that storyline. And for me, I think there's a lot here that gets resolved, albeit in a very funny way, and with some eccentric characters. But I really liked it for those purposes. It's a very Jen character driven, very momentum heavy episode, which I love, because we needed that momentum. I would love to kick it to you guys to see what you think. Carolyn, I'll start with you. Initial thoughts?
I really enjoyed this episode. There's some parts of it towards the end that I disagree with. I was reading an article on Nerdist that summed up some of my issues with it. They did something at the end. This series keeps surprising me in regards to stuff that Disney does, because they keep introducing things like the 7 soulmates and the things that are a little more mature. And at the very end, the thing that happened at the very end was one of the scariest things that I think She-Hulk has ever done. Weirdly for me, but also I really liked the healing and the concept of it. I definitely agree. It was a very Jen-centric episode, and we really start to see the psychological stuff, and I love that.
I couldn't agree more. Beth, what about you? What's your take?
I did really like the episode. I think personally, I felt like it suffered from what I think a couple of the Disney Plus shows have suffered from recently, and what I refer to as a very middle episode. In that it's yes, we got all of that momentum that we needed, but the point is, like, we needed it. So now this episode in some ways kind of feels like it exists just to fill out this exposition that we've been hinting at all season, but not really getting to, like all of this stuff she went through. It's so great. And I'm glad that we got to say it. But it's like we spent 6 episodes waiting for her to just be literal about something that they've already been driving home. So I would have liked to see a little bit more of the A plot in this, but I do think it was a good episode. I think it was a solid episode. I think it was a bottle episode. It was a very middle episode. And those are never my favorite, but that doesn't necessarily, that's not that. So it's like, that's a me thing. It's like, those are never my favorite episodes, but the episode still did a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think it's an improvement, Beth, over at least last week's episode, which felt to me like really filler? The wedding episode was just absolute filler for me, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
I agree that it felt very fillery. However, having now watched this one and knowing that one is set up kind of changes the way I see it a little bit. It's almost like, she finally got to spend one whole episode as Jen for the most part, and now has to come back to reconciling. Excuse me, ma'am, absolutely not. There's a very small cat here that likes to try and touch things she knows she's not supposed to touch when she knows I'm not paying attention to her. Anyway.
The true star of the show, by the way.
Shrimp. Yeah, Shrimp is always the star of the show. And don't worry, she'll let you know.
We love you, Shrimp.
We love Shrimp.
Yes, Shrimp, what are your thoughts on the episode? No, I'm kidding. Go.
Well, hold on. Yeah.
Oh, she actually answered.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, we love that.
But yeah, I too was a little frustrated by the episode last week because it just felt very slow and it just felt very filler. But now seeing it in conjunction with this episode, like, I'm a little kinder to it.
Fair. That's actually a really good point. I mean, you wouldn't be able to get the Josh plotline, that they set up here, or at least that they continue or pay off here, if you didn't have that set up in the previous episode.
Yeah, like
Josh.
Like the heartbreak wouldn't be as poignant and the catharsis wouldn't be as, important if you didn't actually like genuinely like this guy at first, and you kind of had to be able to spend time with him to get that emotionally invested.
I think to me, this is kind of the closest that I feel like the show has ever gotten to Buffy sort of territory in terms of concept. When you think about like one of the, the fourth season of Buffy, when she goes to college and she meets Parker for the first time, she's getting over Angel. Buffy was always this metaphor about growing up, about people, real life challenges, the challenges of real life, but you have to balance out being a superhero and, a regular person with real feelings and everything like that. And what I loved about this episode, I think, was, Buffy had an episode where she met a guy named Parker. He hit it and quit it. And that was like the first time that she had ever, experienced something like that. And you could be this superhero with these amazing powers that can accomplish everything in this world. You can be like the strongest female protagonist in the world. But at the end of the day, you still have feelings. And when people do that, when people just use you and screw you, over, that doesn't mean that the pain isn't there. That doesn't mean that you that vulnerability isn't there. And I love that. I think this is the first time that, we've been alluding to this all season, I think, because Jen's been wrestling with the two aspects of her life, the She-Hulk aspect, where she's popular and everybody loves her and everything like that. And then she's just Jen as the second part. So
she literally refers to her as like in the third person. When she talks about She-Hulk, she doesn't say me. It's wild.
And even her description later in this episode, where she's talking about the popular girl at school that you always wanted to be, she kind of sees that aspect of her personality, the She-Hulk aspect, as that separate person. So I do love that we're getting that very, that very human aspect to the character in this episode. But to your point, I think if they spent a little bit more time on the A plot line, this is your point, Beth. I think that would have been, it would have been even better.
Yeah, I felt like at the end they wanted it to be a cliffhanger, but instead it was just confusing.
I could definitely see that. Definitely see that.
Although I kind of loved it just upon rewatch. The vampire guy, you guys remember what his name was?
Saracen.
Saracen, yes.
So
Saracen.
in the comics, there's two different Saracens, and they both are like nobody. So that's very fun.
Right. There you go. And Saracen says, unless he wants her blood, midway through the episode, where she's like,
I swear to God, he's in this episode just because somebody thought that line was funny. Because like as a comics character, he's no one. Like there's no reason for him to be there.
That is actually
a little bit of a character, as is Manbull.
And Wrecker
they're a little
too.
More known. But like Saracen, nobody cares about. I think he's just there because it's funny. I love that for him.
Me too. I loved how obscure they got with some of these, D-list villains that exist in the Marvel universe, just the comics universe. Porcupine. We never thought we'd ever see Porcupine in live action. And we never, El Aguilar, we figured maybe he might come up. Wrecker for sure. The Wrecking Crew in general, I feel like has always had big roles in the Marvel universe. Certainly when it came to the original Civil War storyline and everything like that. And then, Manbull has turned up here and there, really, really kind of like a C-list character, but here and there, you'd see him. But Saracen, I didn't even know, and
he's nobody.
Yeah, he's nobody.
He's like a one-off bad guy for Blade once, maybe, and then like maybe he's in like a zombie AU or something. He's absolutely no one.
Is he an actual vampire in the comics?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's a very interesting choice to introduce that right before the Werewolf by Night special, even if he's
and the same week that Blade gets not canceled but delayed. Poor Blade, by the way. We hope for the best. We want a Mahershala Blade already. But that being said,
I love a good group of D-list heroes though. Like for real, one of my favorite comics of all time is Superior Foes of Spider-Man. So good, dude.
Terrific.
Like, please give me that. Give me just like 10 issues of just the biggest idiots just fucking shit up. And I love them.
And you know that the MCU has had such amazing success with D-list characters. Just look at the Guardians of the Galaxy guys. I mean, like they were no one before James Gunn turned them into a household name. So yeah, the greatest characters can come from the worst sources. And I think Saracen is the smartest of them because he figured it out immediately. He's after her blood. And we're like, oh my God,
blood.
Good dude. But yeah, no, I kind of loved how the show started. This episode in particular, how it started, because it really starts out like a sweet rom-com. In a short amount of time, there's just this cute montage that really gets you to fall for Josh in the same way that Jen does, because the chemistry between them is sweet. The romance between them is sweet. The buildup is sweet, and they do that very well, actually, in a span of 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, it's real quick. This episode, shout out to like the scoring of this episode. There were some really good needle drops that like really helped push a lot of the mood along.
Absolutely, 100%.
The cinematography too, I think, for the opening shots and stuff was very reminiscent of like
it was very soft and
with the very soft Bridget Jones' Diary, that sort of thing, where you focus on the female protagonist, was fantastic. The little text messages though, that also felt very, very rom-com-y, where you saw like the words on it. That was not something I ever thought I'd see in an MCU picture.
Yeah, right. It's kind of funny.
Well, they did that a little bit in Ms. Marvel, but that was more aimed at teens.
Yeah.
The way they incorporated the texts into the world there was obsessed.
Yes.
You know what I find ironic? Do you guys remember when Scarlett Johansson hosted Saturday Night Live a couple years back, right after Age of Ultron? They did a parody trailer for a Black Widow movie, and it was a rom-com, right? Where she's like texting guy and everything. Yeah. Who would have thought that a couple of years later we're seeing that, but it's She-Hulk instead of Black Widow?
Well, especially because in the trailer for SNL, or what they made, the skit, he got with Hulk.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So weird sort of symmetry. Yes.
I mean, it really does take us on that roller coaster pretty quick. They do a really good job with the montage storytelling there. You're right. We fall in love with him in 5 minutes, and then it immediately drops off.
It's shot really like an indie rom-com, which I really liked. And I thought that was really well done, because to your point, Beth, I mean, like in that last episode, we didn't get a whole lot of Josh, but we did get the intro, at least enough to get us to here, and then we really feel like we're cute. It's a great meet cute, and then this ends up playing out like the second act of a rom-com, where I mean, we're getting to understand their relationship and everything like that. And it does it in a very good way. So that when Josh really just screws her over, and we know what's going to happen, sadly, we didn't want it to happen, but the next morning happens. She texts him and no response. And poor Jen is just, kind of obsessing about it all day. I can't think of anything more relatable than those couple of hours that day, and essentially after Josh pretty much just starts ghosting her. What did you guys think about all of that? I mean, we all love Jen, so I imagine that we're feeling it with her.
That was the most relatable part of the episode for me, where you're having a moment, or you meet somebody, or you're just sitting there and you text it and you want to keep texting. It's its own sort of modern anxiety that contributes to the, as part of the age of social media. You're sitting there and you're like reading it. You're wondering, did I do something wrong? Was it me? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I hurt her? Did I hurt them in some fashion? Did they discover some sort of deep, dark secret on the web? Did they discover my secret collection of Groot animals? Did they discover something about this that, I have absolutely no idea what they did? And then you get that, inevitably you get that message, and there's that sense of, but she never gets it. And that broke my heart. That absolutely broke my heart. But what she does get, I liked a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Beth, what about you?
I mean, it was the other half of the montage. I thought it was equally well shot. I thought it was equally well scored, but my favorite part of it, it was all, I can't really say more about it being relatable than Carolyn already did, because you did. It was great. But My favorite part of it is in the middle. She is specifically, for the record, she is specifically watching The Great Muppet Caper.
Yeah.
Which I know because
Back
I'm the
and
only
forth.
person on earth that loves The Great Muppet Caper because it has my favorite Muppet joke of all time in it, and also Peter Falk.
Okay, I gotta ask now.
What's the
Great
joke?
Muppet Caper joke. Which one?
It's that bears wear hats. And the whole premise of the movie is that Fozzie and Kermit are identical twins, and nobody can tell them apart, except for when they're in the park, a little girl walks by and points at Kermit and screams, "Ah, Daddy, look out, a bear!" And he says, "That's not a bear. Bears wear hats." And I think about that fucking constantly.
There you go, guys.
The wisdom, I was just, oh my God.
You
I
learn
don't know
something
why,
new
man.
every day.
It's my favorite.
Bears-
It's my favorite stupid Muppet joke of all time.
You're not the only person who likes Great Muppet Caper. I just want to throw that out there. That is probably one of the better written. I mean, between the Muppets Take Manhattan, Great Muppet Caper, and original Muppets, Great Muppet Caper is above Muppets Take Manhattan for me.
Ah.
Yeah.
Mm.
It is. It's a great movie, but then you do have to contend with the fact that it's really just 2 hours of Charles Grodin really wanting to fuck Miss Piggy.
Well,
Yeah.
He really sells it, my guy. It's a lot.
Yes. That, I did not think about that at all while I watched Great Muppet Caper, but now I don't think I'll ever not.
Congratulations, I've given you this horrible curse.
Yeah, now I'm my no. No.
Yes. Speaking about
You're
people
welcome.
effing people over, back to Josh and the She-Hulk. But I will say, I think maybe those are the same reasons that Jen watches, Great Muppet Caper, is she probably relates to Miss Piggy and, her bending the bars, obviously, was the scene. But I did love that was a great call out, and a terrific Easter egg for us. But yeah. Poor thing, we do relate to her, but thankfully there's something to distract her, hulky sort of business, and she gets a call, hearing that the Abomination, Emil Blonsky's little device thingy that shows when he might turn into Abomination or not, has malfunctioned, and the parole officer, I can't remember the character's name, but Blonsky's parole officer is like, "Hey, it's the weekend. No one's going to send backup for me. Can you come with me to the ranch so that I have a Hulk with me to fight off Abomination in case he actually is, a hulking monster lizard person?" So Jen agrees. Jen's in the car, obsessing about, of course, the text messaging. But we got a brief glimpse of her listening to Hanson on the radio. Has anyone listened to that song in years other than
Yes,
Jen?
it's a banger,
Yes?
and yes.
You don't go through the 90s. You don't
That's
go through
true.
the 90s being born a female without having a deep, abiding respect for Hanson. I can still, to this day, sing that song, even if they're terrible people at this point, because I think I read somewhere.
Are they really?
Yeah, Hanson had something problem. I think I'm almost positive they had something problematic going on. But that song in particular was their only hit, and it was the definition of the 90s singular bop. Like
I knew someone later in life that was like still a huge Hanson fan. This was like 5 years ago. It was like going to Hanson concerts. Like there are still Hanson concerts.
Really?
Like when you went,
yeah.
when you went
That's
to
the
their
real
room,
shocking
did they
part
have
of
like
it.
Hanson posters and like
They're
dolls
all
and-
very much adults now, like in their 30s and 40s, but they're still like, yeah, it was much more recent than one might think.
Fair enough.
Hanson fan.
Well,
I was
I
very
mean,
confused.
just like Jen, apparently, which is terrific. I can't believe that there's still Hanson fans out there. That's kind of funny. But
can we take it back to the parole officer and then all this tied together? Because one of the things that I love the most about this little corner of the MCU is that we get to see how people function in
Yes.
a world with super creatures. So it's very like, it's the weekend, and this guy would hesitate if it was a major criminal, but he has to bring like super powered backup. And the super powered backup sings Evan Hansen, and it really drives home how how you would kind of maneuver in this world. And it made it so relatable, but also really interesting. Like, I want to know what kind of backup would they bring? Would there be two cops? Would there be a cop with superpowers? Do they hire cops with superpowers? Do they hire psychology experts with superpowers who would talk the guy down? Like, what sort of procedures would there be in place? Or is the system so uneven that they would have to call in Jen? Like, this guy actually has an advantage in calling in Jen because maybe he's got war stories of like, oh, my buddies went to go catch, this guy who could turn into a vapor, or this guy with claws. And we went to go catch this guy with these 3 big claws, and he cut his way out of the thing and he hurt 2 of the guys. But now my backup is this 7-foot tall green lady who sings Hanson on the way to the thing. And it's such a, like, you could tell the guy would never call her unless she was a Hulk. Like, he'd let her know.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, I think that's exactly why he does call her, though, right? Because he needs someone that could stand the abomination. But, yeah.
It's an interesting difference, because you would normally like, he'd just let her know as lawyer, and then it was just interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I think you actually bring up a really good point, because in a world of superheroes and supervillains, when you have the police there and everything like that, how do the police really react and work with a character as powerful as the Abomination if that character was to actually go on a rampage? I mean, I know that they try and do their best. I know that the Avengers would totally support the police and everything like that, but they're otherwise really not equipped to handle such a character. But then again, you also have divisions like Damage Control, which I'm sure have gadgets and tools that could potentially work and police enhanced individuals. So maybe that's what they do. Maybe they call in Damage Control. Maybe they call in other sectors of the government that would work with superhumans, or potentially have the tools to stop superhumans. I mean, I gotta imagine there's got to be contingency plans. Did we lose Carolyn?
Oh no, maybe.
Yeah,
she seems.
I think we might. I think Beth, what are your thoughts on this? Well, Carolyn.
I mean, I do know that in the MCU we're about a decade or 2 into this, so there's
I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh no, still underwater, still frozen.
I could hear myself kind of catching up, I think.
Hello? Oh, rats.
I think Carolyn.
We can hear you when your camera's off.
Can you hear me?
Hey!
Yeah, there.
Okay.
We did it.
Yay!
That's all right. While we were in the waiting room before the other 2 of you got here, I dropped out because my internet just decided maybe not. Just like
live streaming,
just completely telling me I needed to re-enter the password. Just like no, the password. Just like no.
I think there might be a slight delay in Carolyn's feed, but yeah. Carolyn, you good?
Oh. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now a little bit better with my thing off?
We can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll keep it off for a minute then and just be mysterious and cool.
All good. Okay. Sorry, Beth, did you want to?
No, I was just saying we're like 10 years in now, and I think you're right. It's like they definitely have some organizations. I think obviously the ratio of people who are superpowered to people who are not superpowered is skewed one way statistically, but skewed the other way power dynamic wise. So
right.
They have Damage Control, they have Shield, they have random superheroes, they have Avengers, obviously. Apparently we now have mutants, though we don't know how much those have actually been relevant to the MCU
right
until now. Maybe we just haven't seen them, but they're around. There's definitely organizations, but like yeah, it's what you were saying. Like, yeah, there's a ton more people. It's the thing, statistics to power. Like, two superheroes is going to be more powerful than like 200 people, even though there's much more people. So like, yeah, how do you deal with that? And God, this man was so relatable too. Just being like, it is a weekend and I am tired and I do not get paid enough for this. You have to come with me.
For real.
No, it's completely relatable. And, you know, he's terrified, obviously, when he's, messing with the thing on the ankle monitor on his, ankle. And he just wants to peace out immediately, and I don't blame him because, Blonsky, if you've seen the footage, he's scary.
Yeah. It was funny though, because the actor did an incredible job of really towing the line between terrified, but not just terrified in that way where like it's because he doesn't trust a damn thing Blonsky's saying.
Yeah.
It's like he's half terrified of Blonsky turning into the Abomination, and he's half just like, this guy is being so weird and I don't want to be here. Like he's like half freaked out by his attitude and half freaked out by like the theoretical possibility of the Abomination. And he just really does a great job of treading that line of being like, I'm terrified, but I'm going to do my job. And you're being so weird right now. Goodbye.
Right, it's kind of got like a weird, like cultish sort of feel to everything that I think is creepier than he ever has been as just the Abomination.
Tim Roth's doing an incredible job, though.
He's great. He actually got me to really, really love him as time went on. Because he's just so mellow and chill now, and it's so funny to watch. I don't know, but yeah.
What really? Okay. See, we're talking about cult behavior, and he is really mellow. But here's the thing: I'm going back, and apart from the joke, and I think it was Iron Man 3 with Bruce and Hulk, I am drawing a blank, and I would love it if y'all would help me out here, if chat would help me out, or if anybody would help me out. I'm drawing a blank on actual mental health sessions with heroes or villains or anybody. Because I can't call Jessica Jones for going to anything like beyond a meeting. I know Daredevil goes to see a priest, but I'm talking like actual and then Bucky, like Bucky's the big one, but you never see villains getting it. And that to me was weirdly important, because Bucky gets it because Bucky is a villain, but he's also not a villain, but he is a villain, but he's also primarily not a villain at this point. But you never see, you don't really see the people who are in need of true redemption and true redeeming qualities in, reformation, in groups that are like talking about this kind of stuff. You don't see the people that really need it. Because there are a lot of people like Titania and a lot of other people who would have powers who would go out and would be like, I'm going to use this to do crime. And one of the things that's always bugged me about comics, like I'll use DC, I'll jump to the other aisle and use DC briefly. You see the DC characters go into Arkham, but they just kind of sit there. This was nice because you got to see the villains, you get to see the villains talking to each other. It was in a funny way, and it was played for laughs. And there's still some issues that I have with it. But it was nice to see psychological redemption. It was nice to see that discussed. Granted, it was discussed in a cult setting by a guy with 7 soulmates who dressed like Jim Jones, which was a serious problem. We have not seen the last of that. It was nice to see, but I'm also kind of like, is it though? Is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. First off, really good point there, Carolyn. We don't see that a lot. We don't see supervillain rehabilitation all that much, apart really from Bucky. And it's kind of interesting because we've got a whole movie coming out in the MCU that's about supervillains that they're going to use to do good things, and each of those, when the Thunderbolts were announced at D23, there was a hilarious comment where Sebastian Stan or Kevin Feige, one of them, I forgot who, said, when Bucky Barnes is the voice of reason amongst this group of rogues, then what does that say about the whole team, right? So you've got a couple of people there. You've got like Ghost.
Says that I have a crush on them all.
You're speaking truth right there. You are speaking truth, my friend.
Right. Of course. But like Yelena, of course, we never would count as a villain. Definitely in need of at least a good group session, though. She could use it after everything she's been through. Red Guardian, of course, I guess. Also, you know, a villain that I think would have, you know, we'd try to rehabilitate. Anti-hero, I suppose. I definitely think that, you know, John Walker definitely needs some sort of therapy, as well as Taskmaster for sure. But we're not going to see this rehabilitation process with each of them, as far as we know. Maybe we might, but I doubt it, because at the end of their respective movies that they've been introduced at, they're already kind of skewing towards positive, you know, and forward thinking. Certainly with Ghost, certainly with a lot of these different characters.
MC. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, MCU and Marvel characters in general, and MCU and Marvel villains get the same benefit that MCU and Marvel heroes do in the grand scheme of, if you're talking about superhero characters, and if you're comparing Marvel and DC, in that DC characters are superheroes who happen to be people, and Marvel characters are people who happen to be superheroes, but that also applies to the villains. So like there are very few villains in the MCU, other than like maybe Red Skull, because like fuck the Nazis, like that are just purely doing something for the sake of evil. Almost all of them, almost no one thinks they're the villain in their own story, you know? Like they do allow these people to be people.
There is one hero that I can absolutely think of that is in the interest of the rehabilitation for the villains, and that is Peter Parker. No Way Home is all about rehabilitating these tragic figures, not in the same way, not in the group therapy sort of way, although one could argue that the extended amount of time that they spend in the elevator and in Stark's apartment is you know, akin to rehabilitation. But that whole movie is about setting things right and curing these people, which I did love. So I think that that's probably the only time in the MCU that we've seen anything similar to what we're seeing here, but it's certainly a completely different situation, I would imagine, you know?
You don't have the Jim Jones cult leader aspect. Take away my MCU card and take away take away my campus pass, because I completely forgot about No Way Home, despite the circumstances of it being such a pivotal healing movie, not just for Gen Z, but for all of us millennials who were like, Otto Octavius deserved better. Otto deserved better. And then we got it. And we're like, oh, I can pass on to the great beyond now because this happened. So I completely forgot about that. But in the Jim Jones cult aspect, you get a really interesting idea that, like, is he doing this for the right? He's doing something that's clearly helping people because it helps Jen.
Yeah.
It does help Jen. He's doing something that clearly helps people. Is he doing it for the right reasons?
Very true. And I would
certainly
argue
one mystery of the season, which I'm really dying to know if they're going to pay off. We only have 2 episodes left, so there's a lot of stuff to wrap up.
Do we buy this change of heart, or do we not buy this change of heart? And I will be honest. I mean, like, if he ends up doing a complete heel turn and he genuinely is a bad guy at the end of the season, I'd be very surprised, because I'm all on board with him being rehabilitated, even if it's in this kind of goofy hippie sort of way, you know.
I would be disappointed too.
Yeah.
I'd be disappointed, but his story about the chicken is sus.
Why do you say that?
It's just such a weird it's the same reason that the parole officer is like, wow, this is a weird interaction, because like it's such a specifically too much sharing. It's like he's sharing too much. There's too many details.
Which, by the way, seems to be an issue that everyone there
has.
Can't even question.
Oversharing.
You know? Yeah, like, why did you tell me all of this all at once right now when I didn't ask for it? You know, which I think is kind of funny. But yeah, no, good point. Good point.
So I think he's up to something, but I don't think it's probably evil. I would bet it's kind of stupid more than evil. Like, it's going to be his big reveal and you're all going to be like, this was for that?
You're
I mean,
this is
starting
what
your
you're
own
doing?
line of self-help
It wouldn't-
books.
Yeah, like something
Yeah.
like so boring and normal and weird that you're just like, what the fuck have we been doing?
I mean, that it wouldn't be the first time the MCU did that. When we think about how Fury loses an eye, that definitely fits in that same category. But yeah. I mean, we'll see if he stays good. I'd be pretty satisfied. If he stays who he is, I'd be pretty satisfied. If he does do a complete heel turn and it is something big, then I'd be pretty satisfied. If it ends up doing a heel turn and something really stupid, as you're kind of alluding to, Beth, I'd be really disappointed. I'd be like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But this is a show that's all about trolling people, and I kind of think
man, that
Unless they want to
intel.
go all the
Oh,
way and make him into Thunderbolts.
yeah.
Sorry, Carolyn.
Well, no, I was just, when you said trolling, I was having flashbacks to that one part of the episode with with the trolling site, and that hit that always hits. Those kind of sites are very real and very prevalent and very everywhere. And I was just like, oh.
They are. They definitely are staying pretty topical in terms of, how the fan community reacts, but also how our world is today in terms of those types of sites really existing and really misleading people down these terrible rabbit holes that ultimately are absolutely fictional. So we've got 2 messages from the chat. Hi, Spy Checking Pyro. Thanks for tuning in. Spy Checking Pyro says, Professor Xavier has a pretty good track record of being a legit psychiatrist of villains who he turned sort of good. Absolutely. I mean, the man says it himself. It's become something of a mantra. Just because somebody loses their path and stumbles doesn't mean that they can't find their way back, which is amazing and really good point. And then our friend Michael J. Lee, all the time they spent in Doctor Strange's basement was a mini rehabilitation circle. Absolutely true. When you think about it, it's just a more expensive, more special effects driven, group therapy session. So
yeah, but these guys in the group therapy session with Blonsky are like the D-list henchman villains. Like, Otto Octavius has a fan base, and the Lizard, while he doesn't have a fan base, they spent a lot of money on the Lizard. And all these other guys have like singular arcs and stuff. I want to see where henchmen A, B, and C, She-Hulk has made its bread and butter, has built itself on the idea that this is the ground level of the MCU. You're going to have people in the ground level of the MCU who aren't the Avengers, who are people like us, who are just sitting there. And if one of us suddenly develops superpowers and decides to use them for evil, where is that person? If that person gets arrested, what's going to happen to that particular person? I'm not a member of the Avengers or the Avengers. So it's like that's what I wanted to see. And it's so I agree. I agree that I was being too short-sighted. I still think that this is a rare moment.
it is. No, you're
where they came from. Like, did he put out an ad? Where did these, like, when we last saw him, he was going up to live on his compound with his wives. Where did it become a retreat for supervillains come in? Where did these people come from?
My guess is, honestly, I mean, when you think about,
did he put an ad on Craigslist?
Probably Prison in the Raft, I'm guessing. Maybe you have these people because they are enhanced individuals, right? I mean, they do have powers. El Aguilar, our second mutant to appear in a Disney Plus show, technically. I guess, is Man-Bull a mutant, or is he an experimentation? I think he's an experimentation, right? Yeah. So, but El Aguilar is a mutant with bioelectricity for sure. And I mean, like, I would imagine that people like that, enhanced individuals, would have to go to the Raft or would have to go to the same damage control center that Blonsky would be at. So if Blonsky's about to get paroled, he'd probably put an ad out there to his buddies in the joint, come fix yourself to my retreat, we'll take care of you since you're my buddy and everything like that. I mean, I could see them all being in the same joint,
I guess.
Maybe.
It just feels so convenient and sudden.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Which kind of, it's also very sus, right? I mean, like, all of a sudden, got these villains all in the same place that are
But like, I don't think they're bad, which is why I'm like, is the reveal just gonna be something dumb, or is there nothing and he's just exactly at face value, and Marvel, as the writers on the whole, are trolling us into wanting there to be something where there isn't. Sometimes the dude is just a dude.
Yep. We're still waiting on that Mephisto reveal from WandaVision. So, I mean, there you go.
I never thought that was happening.
I think, speaking of trolling, Michael also wrote, I love that there's still no Daredevil. Yes.
There's Daredevil right there. That's Daredevil.
Yeah. This is the closest we've seen to Daredevil and She-Hulk. Well, this in the helmet. But yeah, that's still a trolling thing. I'm still disappointed. I want to see, it's just because I want to see Matt Murdock so badly. I think everyone else does too. But it is She-Hulk's show, as I said in the last show. This absolutely needs to be her show.
Do you think we're going to see him first as Matt or as Daredevil? Do you think Jen knows Matt?
I don't think she knows Matt. I think she knows Daredevil. I think she's going to have to know Daredevil, and that's it. But I don't know.
But I mean, that's which way question. Do you? No, because when they showed some clips at D23, she definitely calls him Matt.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't catch that.
Where did she go to law school?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think
but just in general, from having worked in the prosecutor's office, like, I don't think it would have been wild for her to know Matt Murdock, the lawyer.
That's very true.
And for Jen Walters to know Matt Murdock.
She probably does know him as Matt Murdock. You know what? I think he's going to be introduced as Matt Murdock. Yeah.
I want to know which order, if they know each other already, what order we see them meet each other in. Does she see him as Matt? We know that, and then she later finds out, or does she meet Daredevil first and then later realize? I don't know. It changes the dynamic if she already knows Matt and what order they meet in.
Of course. I think we're gonna have to find out. Never, because he's never coming to She-Hulk. We know that at this point. No, I'm joking. Probably next episode, I'm guessing. That's the word on the street.
End of next episode. They're not going to pay for 2 episodes of that.
I'd be very disappointed if it's the end, because we can't rush Daredevil. I mean, you've got 2 episodes left. Use them, hopefully he appears in the next episode and in the final episode, but we'll see. I mean, it would be kind of nice if this whole series kind of builds up to a big bad boss fight with like the Kingpin or something, because there hasn't been a whole lot of build up apart from really the Wrecking Crew. And we finally got a little bit more development in this storyline this episode. So for it to just not pay off, for them to just abandon it and to not have Matt for 2 episodes, I feel like that would be a waste of all this buildup,
I guess, but the whole point of the show is that it's about She-Hulk. I don't care about Daredevil. It's cool that Daredevil's going to be there, but if you're only watching the show because you want to see Daredevil at the end, that's missing the point of the show.
I agree with you. I agree with you, but there has to be a storyline with She-Hulk too. And we've had a couple of episodes where there hasn't been really much of a storyline or build up to any antagonist for She-Hulk. You know what I'm saying? Other than Titania.
But they said straight up at the beginning, and they've said throughout it, that this isn't a superhero show. This is a lawyer show. This is a lawyer show. And this is a show that is about Jen Walters. But again, it's the slow burn. It is the narrative. It's the narrative equivalent of what we were talking about in this episode. This show is a lawyer show, and it was stated up top that this is a lawyer show because Jen still really sees herself at the end. And how much do you want to bet that this ends with her saying this is a superhero show?
I like that.
That would be cool. Yeah,
she has to come to terms with this other part of her, and this whole show has been about her realizing that it's no longer just a lawyer show. She's no longer just a lawyer, which is what Bruce was telling her at the beginning.
Although arguably we haven't had much lawyering either. but
to her, she's the lawyer.
She is. Yeah. So it's a sitcom first. I get it. Whether or not that's what you were looking for in your MCU show or not, that's what this is, so yeah. Michael also says, bring back the Shocker from Homecoming. Yeah, Hakeem Woodbine's awesome. He's a good actor. He was underutilized in Homecoming. Why not? Maybe he'll be back soon. Maybe he'll be in the next group therapy session with Blonsky.
Yeah.
He's in Superior Foes of Spider-Man. Sorry.
Yes, he is.
I really want someone to make that. It would be
amazing if they did. I know that we're running a little low on time, so I think we'll have to skip a couple of scenes, but we do get to, the final payoff where Jen is kind of, she sees the wrecker. She kind of, like, of course, understandably calls him out. Really, really on edge because of everything that he did. Admittedly, he is a villain. He and his boys, four of them, tried to attack a woman in the middle of the night. I mean, that, how much more villainous can get. But
he lies about it.
Yeah, he does lie about it. Yeah. And then to Carolyn's point, I suppose he's there for rehabilitation. And surprisingly enough, these villains actually, are kind of Team Jen. They kind of talk about, give her dating advice, talk about forgetting Josh. They even threatened to go and take care of Josh because he screwed her over so badly, and it ends up being this kind of, I don't know, sweet rom-com, quirky friend situation with all these villains and everything. Do we think that they're being legit? Do you think that they actually do care about Jen and like Jen for Jen?
No, you know what's funny about this to me is that this is the moment, like, these people might seem goofy, but these are dudes who are genuinely offering good advice, who are genuinely solid characters, who are, they might seem quirky and weird. They're not the heroes of this, but they're still doing decent things. This is exactly what a lot of men who want to watch She-Hulk and who have been complaining about how men are treated as only the bad guys. And it's like, no, these are guys who are doing good things. They're just not out there with a shield smashing into people, or they're not out there with metal powers bending things. These are guys who are being decent men. Mm-hmm. Whatever the sus motives behind Blonsky's rehabilitation, because there is potential. I do see what Beth is saying. So these are guys who are being decent men, who are finally being represented. And this is something I love. This was what I wanted. This is still what I want in its own way. I didn't want it with Jen. Like, I wanted some of that, but I also would have maybe liked to have seen, and Nerdist made this point, so I'm not making a unique point here. Nerdist made this point, and a couple of other sites pointed it out too. Women pointed this out. It would have been nice to have seen some women, maybe one guy's talking and just kind of gives a thumbs up or something. It would have been nice to have seen, like, a more communal thing. And I get why they had it be a bunch of guys, because it was like, you're coming to terms with yourself, and you're transitioning into this person who's like merging your sides. And I wish that they'd had more of, like, showing universal acceptance, because we've seen men, now we're seeing men accept She-Hulk. It's like we could have had men and women, and from a storytelling perspective and a pacing perspective, that might have saved us some time. Because while we have a couple of people who are close to her doing that, we don't have, like, a general, you are valid as who you are. You know what I mean? I hope that's making some sort of sense.
It does. No, fair points, Carolyn. Beth, any thoughts on that?
I think in terms of the guys themselves, both things can be true, in that I think they do genuinely like her. I think she's genuinely likable. I do think that they don't all have the correct motives, because, like I said, Wrecker, he lies to her. He lies to her in his apology.
Yeah.
He says, I found this thing and I felt like it'd make me a strong man. They tried to stab her. She knows this. Yeah. And we all just kind of skim past it. But like if he was really truly apologizing, you wouldn't be lying about it. So like that's part of what makes my red flags go up. And yeah, it is kind of, I guess it's just kind of on the nose to have it all be men, because she's explicitly complaining about the response that she is getting from men to her. Like as much as she means it, the metaphor is meant to be a larger metaphor. They don't say anything to her that her assistant hasn't, I forget her assistant's name because I can only think of the actor's name. Nikki, thank you. I'm like, it's not Ginger, that's the actor's name. Nikki, like they don't say anything to her that Nikki hasn't been saying to her, but she doesn't want to hear it from Nikki because she's not looking for that. She's looking for sexual acceptance and acceptance from the other sex and romantic acceptance. So in her head, she needs this approval of these men, even if it's not the right way to be getting that approval or the right people to be getting it from. Like, I think we've all had that instinct in our lives, like when we're just so desperate romantically that you just want the approval of some totem of the thing that you're trying to prove yourself to.
It's so true, actually. And incredibly relatable too. But yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts on that? Yes. Okay. We definitely have to touch upon the last couple of minutes of this show, the cliffhanger, as it were, and the reveal that Josh, of course, is working for whoever wants her blood, managed to steal it, and actually, got away with it and everything. Thoughts about where this is going to go? I mean, I know that we've kind of talked about it, we kind of touched upon it, but we'll just love everyone's hopes for the next episode and what you guys felt when you saw all this happen.
Two things. Is there a character in the in Marvel that's like a teenage Hulk or like a teenage version of Hulk? I know Hulk has a son. Amadeus Cho. Yeah. Okay.
There's Amadeus Cho, and there's also Hulkling, but he's actually a Skrull.
That's true.
See, he's half
Skrull.
That was me, because when it said Hulking, it said Hulk King, like hulking, and then it had the stuff. Given the pace of the story, given the locations that they've been going to, my initial thought was that all of the stuff involving, it's, Kingpin, or, it's this, or, it's that, is all a red herring. And it's some incel, some wannabe dude who just wants that, who has like all the money, like some like, whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely that guy that was like, I'm the client, I'm the firm's biggest client. Like, it's obviously him.
Yeah.
He absolutely has that energy. You're right.
Yeah, somebody who, because everybody thinks that it's going to be like Kingpin or that it's going to be somebody else. If we're going by this theme of redemption and everything else, I would like to see the series end with, we find out that it's some weird wannabe incel man. We find out we're going to call him this mysterious figure, MCU Musk. We're going to call him MCU Musk. MCU Musk has that incel-esque energy, and he's hired them to give him this serum so that he can make himself into a Hulk so he can feel like a man. And for some reason, in doing so, he's cheesed off Kingpin or cheesed off Daredevil. So this guy doesn't get what he wants, and he gets the snot beat out of him by Kingpin or by Daredevil and She-Hulk. And because that just seems to be where stuff like that would be going. I still think it's the same guy who gave, because I said this on the last episode I was on, I still think it's the same guy who gave Titania her powers, or however she got her powers. It's probably the same person.
Some means of like, in the comics, it's Dr. Doom.
In the comics,
that's not MCU Musk. That's a.
I know, and I just feel like that's too big for her.
Yeah, there's no way they're gonna. I mean, well, she has been a Fantastic Four member in the past, so a lot of people are thinking about ways that this could tie into Fantastic Four, and that's a way, but I don't think that they're there yet. I don't think Marvel's going to announce anything about the Fantastic Four at the end of She-Hulk or anything like that. So
The second thing, and this one I do want to pull you guys on because I think it's really important. Do you think once she aligns the two halves of herself that she will be able to change back? Or do you think that she'll be Jen as She-Hulk? And
I don't.
She'll be able to change back, yeah.
Yeah, I think she definitely will, because all things considered, she doesn't have the same problem that Bruce has. She can control this. So she's always Jen, regardless of whether she's She-Hulk or not. It's more of an emotional thing than it is a psychological thing, and like it is with Bruce. So I feel like, she's just got to be confident in herself as Jen, just as much as she is in She-Hulk, as she is a She-Hulk. That's
also by the time she gets poisoned with his blood, he's already done so many modifications to himself to get to where he is. She's not necessarily starting from the same genetic zero he did either.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's like pretty core to her character that she can switch back and forth. And at a certain point, a lot of the time she chooses to live as She-Hulk all the time, but like never, other than in like storylines where like it's about that, like never on Earth has this been a problem for Jen Walters, like in any version of Marvel.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of the
it would just be like such a huge swing for them to make, I feel like, you know?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have 2 comments from Spy Checking Pyro. He called She-Hulk an interesting specimen. That's big. Yeah. And then I still think that there's more power brokers out there other than Sharon Carter. Also a very good possibility. Spy Checking Pyro. Beth, you were pointing, alluding.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's the guy that I'm like, they're so clearly telegraphing that it's supposed to be that guy, the guy who came to the went on the date with her and then came to the law firm. And also that actor is like an actor. Like when he came on, I was like, oh, this guy's important because I recognize him. Like he's, you know, so he is something.
He's probably going to be that. Yeah.
To your point of saying like, oh, is there a teen Hulk? One answer that we didn't give is that it could be yes, but we don't know because he spent all that time stuck as Hulk on the like fighting planet and doesn't really remember what happened. And in the comics, he does have a son. From Warworld. I don't remember the guy's name, but like, so yeah, that could be a possibility. But again, I'm then interested to see how they would incorporate that. Like, would it be this guy and this guy can change, but then why would he need the blood? You know, the blood has to be for something, which I'm also curious to see. And it feels like you're right. Like they're so heavily telegraphing this guy that I'm like, it must be him. That like maybe it's not. Like I don't know.
It has to be the way that they're telegraphing it. It has to be somebody who fits the overarching theme of the movie, which is that he's got to be a troll. He's an online internet troll. He's MCU Musk. He's an online internet troll. He's somebody who wants this, or he's like an internet troll that is because when you said specimen and you put when that gentleman went on the chat said specimen, I said, yep, leader. If it's the leader, if they're bringing leader,
good possibility. And they just announced Tim Blake Nelson coming in too, so very possible that this is his re-entry into the MCU, and very possible this could lead into Captain America: New World Order. So, which he's confirmed.
Wild speculation that is almost definitely not going to be true, but would be really satisfying if it were.
Sure.
If the reason that Abomination is sus is that actually this was his plan this whole time, and this other guy that we're all so sure must be this incel guy is just an asshole. And then that ties my other theory together of being something else.
I'd be very satisfied.
That he's trying to fix himself, that Abomination was bad and wrong, but now, you know, her Hulk DNA shows that, you know, there is a way that maybe he could be more normal as Abomination. Haha.
I'd 100% be on board with that.
Right? It would be really satisfying, and that's why they won't do it.
Agreed. We are unfortunately out of time, folks. I know that we could talk about She-Hulk all day, and we thank you guys for absolutely sticking with us every single time, every single show, and all throughout every episode. We love you guys. Thank you guys so much for sending in your comments and stuff. Beth, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on the internet at bscores, which with an underscore at the end. I think it's on the screen. I have another screen here I'm pointing out, like people can see that. Yeah, that's it. That's all I do. It's mostly photos of my cats. Like, I don't know. They're good cats, though. There's another one as well as Shrimp.
We do love Shrimp, and we'd love to see more photos of your other cat as well. Thank you so much, Beth. Carolyn, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Carolyn, my name, first name in fandom with a capital F. You can also find that's mostly me tweeting about shows, indie video games, waiting for Werewolf by Night. That's my guy. I am so ready for Werewolf by Night. I'm so ready for more horror in the MCU. It's not even funny. Everybody says it's a knockout of the park. Just 150% about that. And failing that, you could probably find me on Avengers Campus doing Avengers Campusy things, you know, because that's what I do.
Awesome. And as always, I've been your host, Mike Manalo. You can find me at TableBoy182 on Twitter and Instagram, but always my work is on thenerdsofcolor.org, whattowatch.com, and that's at LA. From all of us to all of you guys, thank you so much for an amazing show. And thank you, Beth, and thank you, Carolyn. And thank you, as always, to our producer, Stephanie. We love you guys. 2 more episodes to go, guys. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you very